can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get this show started. Right, on the show today, Indian cricket is in the news and not for the right reasons. That loss to Australia and the Border-Gavaskar Trophy seems to have rattled the management. Reports of sections unhappy with head coach Gautam Gambhir's ways are now emerging. BCCI too seems to be trying their hand at playing the tough cop, the hard parent, and keeping both the coaches and the players in line. They have reverted back to restricting families' travel time with players on tours, so no families to be traveling and spending time with the players. What is all of this leading to? What messaging is coming out of these changes? And is the BCCI's way of telling the Indian men's cricket team to get their act in time for the Champions Trophy? All of that heading your way. And speaking of unrest, is there some brewing for Cristiano Ronaldo? Portugal teammate who has had a tough time with this superstar claims CR7 will want to make it to the next Football World Cup. Is that on the cards? And will Ronaldo be welcomed back into the dressing room after a tough phase in the past? More on that as well. But first, a look at the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with women's cricket, India smashed a record 435 runs in the final ODI of the three-match series against Ireland, India's highest total in women's ODI. Smriti Mandhana's 70-ball 100 is the fastest done by an Indian woman. Pratika Rawal, with a 154-run contribution, was the highest run-getter in that Indian lineup. In men's cricket, Indian pacer Jasprit Bumrah has been named ICC Player of the Month December 2024. The cricketer was rewarded for his stellar show in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Bumrah was the highest wicket taker in that series, 32 wickets in those 5 test matches. On to football, Manchester City drew 2-2 with Brentford in a Premier League match despite leading 2-0 up till 82 minutes. Manchester City failed to restrict Brentford. Yohan Wissa scored Brentford's opener and Christian Norgard's stoppage time equaliser salvaged a draw for the London-based club. In tennis, Novak Djokovic played out another 4-setter at the Australian Open. The Serb managed a 6-1, 6-7, 6-3, 6-2 win with Jamie Faria in the second round. In another match, again a round 2 affair, Carlos Alcaraz eased past Yoshihito Nishioka in straight sets. Over in the women's draw, world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka as well survived a scare against Jessica Buzaz in the second round. The defending champion secured a straight set win despite some trouble in that second set. Will now face Clara Toussaint. And US lawmakers passed a bill banning transgender student athletes from women's sports in schools and institutions that are federally funded. The bill was passed with 218 lawmakers voting in favor as opposed to 206 who were against it. The bill still needs to be approved by the US Congress. Indian cricket is going through a trial by fire, and one of the people under the scanner is head coach Gautam Gambhir. The fact that India has encountered one loss after another has only put the coach under sharper focus. What's worse is that Gambhir has been accused of bringing in dictatorship culture to the setup. Reports say that there is a hint of a rift between senior players in the side and the head coach. The fallout of the fiery battle that started in Australia only seems to be getting worse. So where have these stemmed from really? What's the reason for these kind of talks to emerge from that Indian setup? It is believed that Gambhir wasn't pleased with some of the players, was not happy with how some of these players had specific demands regarding hotels and practice timings during the Australia tour. And on the other side, you had senior players feeling there was a lack of communication coming from Gambhir's end, resulting in a bit of a tussle between these two parties, leading to comparisons between Gambhir's stint right now to that of Greg Chappell's back in the early 2000s. Both of them entered the Indian dressing room with a lot of fanfare, a lot of focus and attention. Chappell had an unceremonious exit, of course. After raising chaos and ruffling feathers, he was at war with the seniors in the side. Some believe that is what is happening now. Probably a milder version of that is what this standoff is all about in the current Indian dressing room.
Either you be like a Ravi Shastri, who would be media friendly, or be like Rahul Dravid, Gary Kirsten, or John Wright, who would remain aloof. The Chappell way doesn't work in India. Gambhirs or Shastris or Dravids will go, but players will stay.
There seems to be a pattern of harsh parenting. Take what happened during the Australia tour. The dressing room leaks after that Melbourne test painted Gambhir in a certain light. Yes, that loss at MCG would have hurt, and India failed to take advantage of the situation. They threw away a lot of the opportunities, but the leaks pointed out how Gambhir wasn't pleased with players taking their places for granted. Also revealed his stern side, that dressing down struck many the hard way. And it was following that talk, Rohit Sharma, India's captain, sat out of the all-important Sydney test, the last test in that series. All of this, of course, points to some level of tension in that dressing room. And it isn't just the players who seem to be agitated with Gambhir. BCCI management is not too pleased with the coach either, especially with Gambhir's personal assistant. The BCCI is displeased with Gambhir's personal assistant being present just about everywhere. In all of those key places, the hospitality box, even the cars where they're travelling in, they're upset with the lack of professionalism being displayed here. The scrutiny is such that the management seems to be set to hand out Gambhir a deadline to deliver. In fact, they've also requested him to keep his personal assistant aside and away from all of the team gatherings and those important places. But here's where it's at. There is possibly a deadline for him to deliver, or at least start showing results. It is believed that the Champions Trophy is going to be a make or break for Gambhir if he intends to hold on to his seat. The comments come as no surprise, especially when we know Gambhir wasn't the lead choice for this role. When you know Gambhir is at the helm of affairs, though, it comes with a caveat. It accompanies certain knowledge. He isn't the sort where you just wouldn't know what to expect. Gambhir has been clear in that regard. There won't be any cloak and dagger stuff. No surprise elements there. He's a hard taskmaster, and that's what you're bound to receive. Which is why he's found support from few cricketers that he's shared dressing rooms with in the past. I get these comments, everything will seem well and hearty, especially when you're winning, when you're on the winning side. And Kolkata's IPL franchise, when Gambhir was around, even as a captain and as a coach last season, was a winning dressing room. Maybe Gambhir's methods are too straight-jacketed for some in the national side, something not everybody is entirely on board with and is yet to come to terms with. As India coach, Gambhir wants his word to be the final one. His word that will determine how the dressing room functions and behaves. That's why he signed up for this. He wishes to end that superstar culture that has surrounded Indian cricket for ages now. A culture where a player is put above all else, the game, the team. Had results been coming in though, the same Gambhir would have been praised for his fearless, stern approach, because you will not rattle or disturb a winning combination. So yes, while there is some simmering tensions, the losses have not really helped Gambhir's vision, his cause, his agenda. Without results, even the straightforward Gambhir has been made to look to be a dictator. The question is, can this be the workable solution in a very complex dressing room like the Indian men's cricket team and with Champions Trophy around? Should Gambhir ask himself how much is too much? The worst phase in Indian cricket, at least, is the period after a terrible loss. The 3-1 loss to Australia has obviously kick-started the dreaded post-mortem, opened the door to all possible reactions, knee-jerk responses, meetings and discussions, and the inevitable cracking of the whip. The sound has to be loud enough to be heard, but not too loud to be called authoritarian or unnecessary. That's what the BCCI has done. They've taken some action to seem like they've taken note of India's dismal run by bringing back some restrictions that they had earlier imposed. The BCCI will not allow families to travel with the players beyond a stipulated time. For the long tours, that is tours more than 45 days, which is what this Australia series was, it will only be 14 days of family time. And for the shorter tours, the shorter series, up to a week, that's it. This is what it was like earlier before the pandemic. But of course, COVID changed a lot of things. Now BCCI wants to revert to clamping down on the time players will get to spend with their families, their wives on tour. Wives and partners will not be allowed to stay on tour for the whole duration. This seems to be a natural reflex action that Indian cricket primarily ends up resorting to. They seem to be thinking, or at least asking these lines: team is not winning, so it's not performing, and that means there is distraction, and that has to be the families. They need to be in isolation and focused on their cricket. Families traveling with the players just won't do. Of course, this gave birth to many reactions online. Now, I remember a similar diktat being circulated more than a decade ago under a different management and coach. It is one of the obvious reactions that Indian cricket has witnessed. We've seen this across other sports like football too, where wives and partners are a no-no during a tournament. No distractions, please. At the Euros last year, England team were forced to stay away from their partners, not unless they qualified from the group. They were specifically told they did not want a repeat of the circus of 2006, the chaos that followed their Baron stay back then. England is clearly a repeat offender in here. Fabio Capello laid down the law during his tenure: no WAGS allowed at the World Cup, only during the camp preceding it. Roy Hodgson, when he was in charge, famously uninvited the WAGS during the 2014 World Cup, while they were the sole purpose of avoiding distractions and keeping the players focused. There have been other instances, and for varied, rather bizarre reasons too. Denmark banned the WAGS at the 2022 World Cup. Players were told not to get their families along during the tournament. Reason? They did not want to enhance the economy of Qatar. Last year, during a Champions League tie, Bayern Munich's wives and girlfriends, the WAGS, were not allowed to travel to London due to restrictions on away team supporters. So enough instances that puts this act by the BCCI in similar vein of saying that families travelling are mere distractions. But take Chennai Super Kings IPL franchise, Daddy's Army. Every cricketer married with children, and this is one franchise known to travel XL size. I've been a part of it and seen all of it, but that did not stop this bunch for being the most successful IPL franchise. 2 of those 5 titles coming over the last few years alone. One other key protocol that BCCI has now insisted upon is that all players will have to travel in the team bus together. They will have to travel everywhere in one bus. It's a given. But I'm guessing BCCI had to spell this out so that it's not noted down and so that it's noted down and followed. Because few of the players did not travel with the team during Australia tour between the cities. There definitely is an undercurrent of a strong messaging of the management telling everyone to get in line, toe the rules, play domestic cricket when there is no international tour, for example. So now, after news of Rohit Sharma training with his Ranji state mates coming out, we saw a flurry of other star players' names getting associated with their respective state sides. Virat Kohli and Rishabh Pant's names are present in Delhi's probables list, though whether this will translate to participation is anybody's guess. Shubman Gill has made himself available for Punjab's fixture in the Ranji Trophy. There seems to be an underlying sense of poking the players and coaches to get their act together. There's an ICC event coming up, and no one wants disaster to strike the team then. 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018 and 2022. That's the number of FIFA World Cups played by Portuguese football star Cristiano Ronaldo. And with another World Cup taking place in a little over a year from now, will CR7 come out for another shot at glory? Because by the next World Cup, Ronaldo will be 41 years old, an age where the inevitable questions come faster than anyone would like it to. Ronaldo's teammates think there could be another chapter here.
I not only believe, but I'm almost certain that he'll be there. It would be great if Cristiano Ronaldo fulfilled his dream of winning the World Cup with the national team. Not only for him, but for us Portuguese people.
Well, if anyone can do it, it has got to be Ronaldo. The fitness, the agility, the hunger to stay on the football field and deliver, all of that when he is 39. And more importantly, reports say Ronaldo is likely to extend his contract with the Saudi club Al Nassr. That will push his stay in the Saudi league until 2026. But the question here isn't if Ronaldo wants to play another World Cup. That's not just it. Because he most certainly would come out given his ambition to add the only missing silverware in his cabinet. And if his body is willing, of course. The concern here is, will Portugal and his teammates embrace Ronaldo once again? Because recently, Ronaldo hasn't been the most liked figure in the national setup. Yes, despite being the highest international goal scorer and the most popular superstar, you can sense the tension each time Ronaldo enters the field for Portugal. There's hardly any celebration among them after a goal, and just watching the way they play with each other, you can tell something is amiss.
He is an important player and spent 15 years competing with Messi for the Ballon d'Or. But the peak of a footballer's career is between the ages of 25 and 32. He is an important player for us, but the national team does not depend entirely on him.
And it isn't just Cancelo. 2 years ago, there were rumours of a rift between Ronaldo and Fernandes, the same Bruno Fernandes who is now vouching for Ronaldo's presence at yet another World Cup. After CR7's ugly fallout with Erik ten Hag, the footballer went on record to slam Manchester United and Ten Hag. And just after that, Ronaldo joined the Portugal squad for the World Cup in Qatar, and when he and Fernandes saw each other in the dressing room, this is how they met. You can sense the discomfort, and it is understandable. Ronaldo is nowhere near any of his Portuguese teammates. He's absent from Europe's top-flight football, while the rest of his teammates are competing back there. Ronaldo almost seems to be living in a different life in Saudi, a completely different league with a different mindset. Ronaldo's comeback in Europe only happened when he represented Portugal in the Euros, unlike the rest of his teammates who interact with each other regularly, because they are teammates or rivals in leagues across Europe. But Ronaldo only comes when there is an international fixture, which makes the distance seem more apparent. So the bigger question is, will all these players embrace Ronaldo once again? Rally around him, because Cancelo, Fernandes, both are regular starters in the Portuguese lineup, and being key members of the playing 11, will they be happy to be led by Ronaldo again?
We really want to give that to our country. For him, as the ultimate reference in our football, it would be the best way to end.
Cristiano Ronaldo deserves to win the World Cup. We have to do everything to help him achieve this. It's his dream, the only title he's missing.
That is a dramatic change in tone, and what brought this on is probably the realization of how much this means for Portugal. Not just Ronaldo. But here's the thing, football in Portugal means Ronaldo. It's been that way for years now. And if the biggest football influence in the country cannot have the most prized trophy, how does that define Portugal as a footballing nation? With another World Cup approaching, players have finally realized the magnitude of this World Cup for Ronaldo. A disjointed setup would only mean heartbreaks like they've had in the past, because the only way Portugal can win the World Cup is by uniting as a team, just like how the 2022 World Cup panned out for Lionel Messi and Argentina. Despite being a football-crazy nation, world champions in the past, Argentina had never won the World Cup with Messi. But the whole nation, the team, they wanted to win that World Cup for him. The 2026 one could be the same for Ronaldo and Portugal. That is, if he decides to play. Time for last serve. The Africa Eco Race drew to a close on the shores of Dakar in Senegal after the group stage matches in Morocco, Mauritania and Senegal. Watch the winners put up a final burst in their bikes, cars and trucks. That wraps up First Sports here. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on First Post.